Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for a June webinar. We host these webinars every month, and they are usually around the third week of the month. And each webinar covers a different company store or simple store topic that will help you guys out, whether you're brand new to company stores or you're a seasoned distributor. So we're going to cover a few things while everyone logs in and gets settled. You should see an icon on the side of your screen that looks like a handout. And you can click on that to download today's presentation slides. And there's also a really, well, not a really, but a handout that goes into more detail on UX and company stores. So I recommend grabbing both of those. But if you forget, don't worry, we'll have them tomorrow posted on our website. And then you should also see an icon that looks like a talk bubble. So you can click on that icon at any point in the webinar to ask a question. We get to the questions at the very end, but feel free to just send those over kind of whatever they pop into your head. And I'll get those added to our list of questions for the Q&A session. If you do submit a question, also just to let you know whether we have time to get to it or not, because sometimes, the actual presentation runs a little long or we get a lot of questions. We always follow up with you via email. That way you have your original question and our answer in writing, and it's just easier for you guys to reference later on. All right, well, I think that takes care of all of our housekeeping stuff. So giving our presentation today is our Vice President, Tanya Gnasik, and she'll be going over all the content and walking you guys through the storefront. And then my name is Megan Reberry, and I'm the marketing specialist here at Bright Stores, and I'll be on the other end of that question box helping you guys out. All right, well, with that, I'm going to quickly hand it over to Tanya to give you a quick overview of Bright Stores and what we do.
Thanks, Megan. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So most of you know who Bright Stores is and what it is that we do, but Bright Stores is a promotional online store solution provider. So we build online stores, company stores primarily, simple stores, pop-up stores. That's our primary product and what we do and what we've been doing for a very long time. So we only provide these solutions to distributors and suppliers in the promotional products industry. So we know this industry. We've been doing it a long time, and it's our home, and we like it here. But the bottom line is that we are a technology company. We're a software company. And so we really work hard to continue to invest and reinvest in our software to grow it, to expand it, to make it better and faster and bigger and stronger and more secure. So from a technological standpoint, that you can take those promotional items that your client wants to buy, put them on a store online, and the store can help you and your client be more efficient and controlled in getting all those orders via an online store. So Bright Stores is behind all of that. We have been doing it since the 90s, so we're really good at what we do, I think, and we're happy that you have chosen us to take a look at these stores with. So thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Tanya. So real quick, as today's webinar title points out, the webinar is all about how to customize the user experience for your company store. So we're going to start by going over user experience and just kind of what it is and how it relates to your company store. After that, we'll dive into company store access and the different kind of ways people can enter the store. And then we'll dive into users, groups, and permissions. They all kind of tie in together, as Tanya will talk about later. And then after that, we'll go into a couple more permissions that you can use in your company store to kind of customize that experience. And then we'll dive right into next steps and live Q&A. So, all right, I'm going to hand it over to Tanya so she can get started diving in.
Great. Okay. So first, what is user experience? So you may have already heard Megan reference UX. UX is another term for user experience, and it's kind of a buzz term that has gained more and more traction in technology over the last few years. Basically, when it comes to company stores, the user experience really just involves a process of what the user's flow or process is going to be as they move through the store. It touches on a lot of different points, which obviously we're going to dive into here. But what is that process for them? How do you configure a store to create an effective and relevant experience for shoppers that come to your store? From the minute they land in the store and the way that it looks and the way that it feels, to the flow, to the features, to the of payment, so through the end of the order and the process in between, what does that experience look like? User experience is something that clients are asking for, and user clients say we want a really good user experience. And so it's an important conversation and something good to know. Really, as we say here, it's just a good, seamless, fluid experience that meets the user's needs. So having it look good and move quickly and be straightforward is very important, but it also has to meet the needs or the function of why they're in the store in the first place. So find the quickest, most efficient path through the store while also giving them the requirements and the features and the tools they need to be effective within a company store environment. So it's just a little bit about what IE is in an overview, but let's dig in a little bit more and talk about the why, how, and what. So to me, one of the first things you want to think about is why. Why is the user going to the store? What is the purpose of the store? What is the motivation? Is it something directed by corporate? Is it something that they're doing to get their uniforms that they have to wear to work every day? Is it a great company logo that they want to buy with their own money and wear around to share? So what is the purpose of shopping in the store? What motivates users to go to the store? And then what are their needs? Sometimes users aren't motivated to go to the store, they're directed to go to the store by their employer. And if that's the case, then what are the needs of the store? Well, we need for users to be able to pick their size of a uniform shirt so that everybody can easily order it and have shirts to wear. So understanding why your shoppers are going into the company store and what their intentions are when they get in there is a great place to start when building out an effective user experience. The next point is how. How is the user getting into the store? And we're going to dig into this one a little deeper in this webinar, but how are they accessing the store? How do they get to it? How do they log into it? Things like that. And then aesthetics, what does it look like? Is it easy to follow? Are there links and verbiage that effectively get the point across as to what the user is meant to do in the store? So how they get to the store and how they use the store are really important components of a smooth user experience. And then as they move through that order, what is the functionality or the feature set going to be in this store? Is the user coming in here to redeem their budget dollars, or are they coming in here to buy inventory off a shelf, and so we need to be tracking that inventory and our orders going through a manager to approve them. So some of the more detailed features and functionality of a store is oftentimes going to really also close up the other side of that user experience, and in the point that I made about creating a store that's effective not only for the user but for the company requesting it as well. So why, how, and what of a company store really help understanding the use and the need so that you can build a store that has a good user experience while also accomplishing goals. Of course, it's always important to talk about the who. So anytime you're talking about a company store, you want to say who's using the store? Who is it that's going to be coming to the store and placing orders? Is it all employees? Is it just managers ordering for their departments? Is it general public? Is it all three of the above, none of the above? So who's coming to the store is also a really important component of who, what, why, and how. So gathering that information lets you build a structure that you can go in then and fill in details to really build a store with a nice flow for the user. So let's break it down. Let's talk about some of the important components of the company stores, and let's start with accessing the store. How do users access the store? There are a variety of ways that you can set up the store so that users can access it, but really, how do you want the user experience to be as they're getting into the store? Can they just come on in? Will it require permissions? Understanding how users are going to get into the store is going to help you build it. So to break it down a little bit further, let's talk about the different ways that you can set up a store to be accessible. So a public store is by far the most common company store scenario. And by public, I don't mean that it's searchable on a search engine or that it's a retail store. I just mean that it's public so that if a user has access to the URL or the store link, they can go to the store, they can see the store, they can see products in the store, they can log in or create their own account by self-registering, and they can place an order all completely on their own. You can also offer guest checkout in a public store too. So if you wanted to set up a scenario where users didn't have to log in, you could even do that. So a public store really is great because you don't have to have your fingers in it every time somebody places an order. They can come, create an account, place an order. So public store, very common. Private store is kind of the opposite of a public store, and it's not as common. And this is when a store is actually kind of locked down. So you go to that URL or that link, and the first thing you have to do is log in. You can't see products or browse the store until you log in. So this is a store scenario where your client doesn't want anybody to even access the products unless they've been authorized and they have credentials to log into the store and get in. That's a private store. What I'd say is not as common as a public store, but really, really popular is a permission store. And it's kind of the best of both worlds of the two I've just mentioned. A public store allows you to set up access into the store like we just talked about. So maybe employees come into the store, they see some categories of products, they order with a credit card, for example, and they place that order. But in that same store, you could have a section of it for upper management or the marketing department. They can come in, log in, and then they can have a different experience, meaning they can see more categories of products, have different payment methods, and so on and so on. We'll get into that more later too. But a permission store is like both public and private all within one store. So it's a great option to allow your single store to have multiple purposes. So let's break it down into groups and users. So let's talk a little bit about group management. So all users that are in the store are going to fall into or be set up within a group. Users don't necessarily know that they're in a group, but it's a great administrative tool that allows you to compartmentalize or organize users into different groups. Why would you set up different groups? Well, by setting up users into different groups, you can, like we said, offer multiple levels of access or permissions so that different groups of users can see different products. You can run great reporting based on group. So if each of your groups is, say, a location of a business or a department, you can run reports by that group to see, okay, this location has this much in sales and so on. So that's a great option. And then creating groups and organizing those groups with permissions allows you to easily upload users into those groups so that once those users are loaded into those groups, they're going to have the permissions associated with the group they're in. So whether you create one group that everybody falls into or whether you have a variety of groups that users are doled into, you can really configure your store and your user experience to make the most sense for that specific program and that specific user. When you do create that group, you go in and you assign permissions for that group. So you can assign for that group the categories of products they can see, shipping methods they can have, the payment methods they can pay with, if they have any access to the administrative side of the store, and then you can even permission pages like an FAQ page or content page, contact us page, things like that. So you can permission a variety of areas through this one interface. We have a lot more types of permissions in the store, and we'll touch on those here in a minute. So now you've set up your groups, you've set up permissions for your groups, and now you want to put users in your groups. So how do you put those users in the groups? How do you get them in there? Well, there are a variety of ways. Self-registration, so that's when the users create their own account and self-register in a store. You can set it up so that all users that self-register fall into that public group, and therefore they'll get whatever permissions are set up for that public group. But you can also use a feature called Group ID, where users can self-register, enter a group ID associated with a particular group, and then it will place them in that specific group. So you're allowing your shoppers to self-register themselves into a permissioned group. So it's a great way for you to control where users go without having to upload all those user accounts yourself. Which brings us to the second option. You can create users administratively as well. So rather than users setting up their own account in the storefront, you can go into the administrative side of the store and either add user accounts one at a time manually, or what's more common is filling out a template and uploading bulk users all at once via a user upload. That's pretty common. I'd say the most dependable, definitely the best for bigger stores with a lot of employees, but the most automated is a single sign-on or an SSO. A single sign-on is an integrated setup within your store, so between your clients' intranet, wherever all their information is stored for employees, it can be integrated so that when the employee logs into their own intranet and they click Shop Promo, for example, it can programmatically carry their account information to our system, create an account for them, and log them in. So they just click Shop Now, and in an instant, they're logged into the store with whatever relevant information carries over with them. So a single sign-on is another way that you can get users set up within the store. User accounts, those accounts that are set up in the store, are really robust. There's a lot of different data fields that you can set up for these users, and so you can set up a variety of different types of fields for users and get them set up in there. So it gives a good opportunity for them. So let's talk about other permissions as well. There are a few other areas that you can permission based on group designation, like we just talked about. So address book. It might seem like a small thing, but it's actually really helpful. If you have different groups of users that will be using the same addresses for shipping or billing, you can preload those addresses and permission them only to certain groups. So, or all groups, it's really up to you. So it really lets you build these big address books and share them between groups, and then of course users within those groups. You can also set up addresses at the group level or the user level, so there's a lot of flexibility with how you add and manage preloaded addresses. Tiered pricing. This is one that is such a neat feature, but I think people might get a little confused on this, thinking that when we say tiered pricing, we mean quantity discounts, which is completely different. Tiered pricing is a really neat feature that allows you to set up pricing for a product so that different groups of users can see different prices of a product. So let's say that you're selling a polo and you want your management team to be able to come in and buy that polo for $10, but you want your general employees to have to pay $15. So they can log in and they're going to see the prices associated with their group or department, and then they're going to place an order. And if you're keeping an inventory for that polo, it's pulling from a single product, therefore a single inventory. So it's a really wonderful way to maintain one inventory of product while offering multiple pricing breakdowns for different groups or departments of users. So tiered pricing, super robust when you are selling for different prices across a single store and using inventory as well. Logo management. So if you have a store where you're allowing the shopper to pick a logo, and I don't necessarily mean a logo version, more just a different logo. Maybe you have a Honda Acura and a Honda Marine logo, and the user gets to go into the store and pick which company they work for and pick their logo, for example. You can set this up so that you can have multiple logos, and then you can set up permissions so that only the appropriate logos will show up for that specific user. So for example, if I log into the Acura company or department, then I'm only going to see the Acura logo on my products. So it's a nice way to permission logos so that only different locations, departments, affiliates, whatever it might be, can access just their own logos. So you can permission the logo to a group, you can permission logos to categories, you can permission logos to products, and you can permission logos to location. So it gets pretty deep with controlling how logos can be used, which, in our industry is really, really important. So great logo management and logo management permissions. Account balance and budget. So we have a few different ways that you can set up a store to incentivize or budget spending. So we have an account balance feature, which is a user level balance of money that they can use to pay for an order. So if you're giving a budget to Mary, then you can load it into Mary's account and Mary can go use that budget to pay for her order. We also have a really robust budgeting system available too, and this is an incredibly robust system that allows you to build budgets, whether that's individual user, whether that's shared in groups, whether there's multiple budgets across a whole company. It allows users to come in and order from a budget from one of several budgets. There's a lot that you could do with this budgeting feature, but the bottom line is it does allow you to permission and control who's spending how much and where they're ordering from. So if your client is looking to control the spending within their store, either for all users, some users, just a group of users, whatever the case might be, that these are some great helpful features to help you manage that. Manager order approval system, another really good control-based feature to help control the spending or the orders placed in a store. So you can set up a store so that orders, whether it's once they hit a certain dollar amount or all orders or just orders for a particular group, again, set up with permissions. But orders set up to be sent through for approval can, once that order is placed, an email will go on to the approver or the manager assigned to that user. That manager is going to see the email. They can review that just right in their email inbox. They can approve the order right from the email, or they can deny the order right from their email. If the order is approved, an email confirmation is going to go to the shopper saying, thank you for placing your order. Copy of that will go to you guys, whomever you want to receive those, and it becomes a new order. If it's denied, an email can go back to the shopper and the order is canceled. So it's a nice feature to help control ordering. And again, it can be set up with permissions so that based on how you configure it, it'll only apply when needed. So let's talk a little bit more about permissions in action. So we've mocked up an example store here as a fitness studio. And so it's a fitness studio with franchise locations nationwide. So they have a company store and they want to make this company store available for two different types of groups of users. First, they want all employees of New You to be able to go to the store and order their uniforms right online. So they can go into the store, order uniforms, and pay with their own credit card. And they're probably going to have to pay full shipping charges, and they're probably going to have it shipped either to their home or their location. So you can really control what's going on for these employees, how they're ordering, how they're paying, where it's shipping, what they're spending, and all that good stuff. But in this example, they're paying with their own credit card, and it's shipping to wherever they want it to. Then second opportunity in the store is for those franchise owners. So if you're a franchise owner and you own a location or two or three or whatever the case might be, you can go to the store. You have special permission to access. So you log in, you can see those uniforms just like your employees can, but you can also order products for your studio and your marketing and promotional material that you might need for your location as well. As a franchise owner, maybe you get to pay with a purchase order. Maybe that goes back to corporate and they manage that in a particular way for your agreement with that company. and then maybe you get reduced shipping charges. Your experience can be very different based on the fact that you're a franchise owner rather than just an employee. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the store front experience might be. So this is just an example store that we talked about, and I've come to this store, I've landed here on this store, and I've come into it as a public user like we talked about. So I'm not logged in, it doesn't know who I am yet. And right now I'm just seeing some options here: home, login, register, uniforms. So the uniforms category of products is available for everybody. That's a public permissioned category. So anybody can come in here and buy uniforms. Thus, employees can come in here and buy uniforms. I'm going to go ahead and click on login, and I'm going to log in. This particular store is allowing me to log in, and it's allowing me to self-register. Again, as I mentioned, if you wanted guest checkout turned on, you can do that. It wouldn't apply to this program though, so it's not showing up. So I'm going to go ahead and log in with my, I'm a franchise owner, so I'm logging in with my franchise owner login. And so here I am, and now I'm seeing a lot more up across the top. So I can see Studio Essentials, I can see marketing and promotions, and I can still see uniforms. I'm also seeing my own account dashboard here, and I have an account balance. So I have a user level, for me, balance of money that I can use to pay for my orders with. You can see that up here. I'm going to go ahead and click into uniforms because maybe I just hired a new front desk person and I want to buy them their first uniform. So I'm going to go ahead and click into uniforms, and it's going to take me to the uniform category. So I can see some uniform items right here. I'm going to go ahead and click into this Sport Tech uniform, and it's going to take me to the product page. So in my example, I can pick which logo. I've got some logo choice going on here. This is just for my location, Denver Highlands. And I can see I can buy a green or a white logo for my shirt. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a white logo. I'm going to go ahead and pick this blue shirt. And I'm going to go ahead and pick a medium. Then I can add this to my wish list and save it for later, or I can just go ahead and add it to my cart to place my order. You can see as a user here, I can see my recently viewed items, I can see my related products, get a little bit of information about this product. I'm going to go ahead and add this to the cart. So I'm adding this product to the cart so that I can go ahead and complete my order and kind of continue to go through it. But before I do that, I want to understand that I can come back and order other items. I can leave a review for items after I've created an account. So there's a lot that I can do here as a user, a logged in user inside the store. So here I am in my shopping cart. I've got a variety of different buttons. I can clear my cart, I can continue shopping, I can remove, I can update, I can check out. I can see my color and my size up there. Now it's taken me to the checkout page. So I've got an overview of my cart here. First thing is shipping address. So I've preloaded some addresses here, and if I hit this drop down, you can see I've got my different location addresses preloaded, so I can select the one I want to ship to right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue. Now I have this particular store example set up to estimate shipping for ground and overnight. So I can come in here and pick my shipping method and click continue. There's a lot of flexibility with shipping method, integrated rates with the carriers, UPS, FedEx, and USPS. I can create custom rates if I wanted to give away free shipping. It's just a lot of flexibility with what you can do if you want to pass on shipping charges to the shopper or not. So payment method. So again, I've got my addresses here for payment method. I can click same as shipping address, or I can click a preloaded address. I'm just going to go ahead and click the same as shipping address. You can also preload default addresses so that users don't have the option. It can preload the corporate address and just display that and show that to them, but then they don't have to enter anything. So you can customize this checkout experience a lot too to make it more straightforward where there might not be questions that need to be answered. So now let's talk about payment. So I've got my account balance that we talked about. If I wanted to bill this against my own account balance, I can check this box to do that. If it's relevant for your program, we have gift certificates and coupons, which both allow you to enter a code to get either dollars loaded into your balance or a discount or something free based on the coupon code. So there's a lot of choices with how you can set up coupons and gift certificates. And with coupons, it's even a whole other level of permissions. So you can permission coupon codes to assign what they are and aren't good for. So permissions is really interlaced throughout our entire system. But I'm going to go ahead and click my purchase order number here, and then I'm going to click continue, and that's going to take me to the confirmation page. Okay, so on my confirmation page, I can go back and edit, I can review, but when I'm ready to place my order, I want to click place order now, and my order is going to be processed. Now, if I have the manager order approval system turned on, then I'm actually going to get a response that says your order has been sent for approval. You'll be notified if your order is approved or denied. So this particular example does have my order going through manager approval. So now manager is going to get the email and approve it or deny it. Once they've approved it, then I'll get an email that says, yay, thank you for your order. Also, if I've created an account, which I have in this example, I can go into my own user dashboard to see my order history. I can load addresses, change my password, check my account balance. I can view order details for what I'm done. Once whomever it is that is processing these orders, like if it's you, once you once this is approved, it'll become new. Then once you process it, you might change it to shipped. You can drop in tracking numbers so the user can click on their tracking number. So this is another really important area of user experience, because what this dashboard in the storefront does for shoppers is it allows them to answer questions. They can come back here and look at the status of their order, track their order, remind themselves what they order. They keep if you go into order history, it keeps a running history of their orders. So if they've been ordering for years, then they can look back a couple years ago and see what they ordered. So this is a great portal for, really giving that user their own control over what they've ordered in the store. So the user experience in the storefront, really important that it looks good, that it's clean, that it's straightforward, and that it solves those problems that you're trying to solve for your client, whether that's controls, branding, whatever it might be. So that's just a little bit of an example of that. And with that, I'm gonna pop back over to the PowerPoint. All right. All right, so let's just take a quick review over what we've just gone over. There are great benefits to creating groups of users. It makes it easier to configure users when you already create groups. Each group can have unique variables and permissions set up, so it really creates more strength and power in your store to control who's doing what within a store. You can utilize permissions to really give different departments or groups different levels of privileges. It creates a better user experience because they're not seeing a whole bunch of stuff they really don't need or won't want. And then user accounts can be added in a variety of ways and with a lot of different levels of information. So it's really flexible with what you can do with your users and flexible with what you can do based on group. So one of the really important points, in my opinion, when you're getting started with a store with a client or even discussing a store with a client is to ask questions. I do have distributors that'll call me and say, my client asked for a store. Can you do a store? And I say, well, absolutely, we can do a store. Tell me a little bit about what they're looking for. And most of the time, the distributor knows because they've had those good conversations with the client. But sometimes clients have not done a store before, distributor clients, and so they don't quite know where to start or what questions to ask. So in that scenario, I say start with some great probing questions with your client. Now, we have a discovery document available through our website, or you can just call us and we'll send it to you, that has a guided series of questions to kind of help you open into those conversations with your client to better understand what they're looking for. But some really good general places to start are, so tell me how you want the store to work. How are your shoppers going to access the store? What is the reason for the store? What do you want the store for? What are these users allowed to see when they get to the store? Is there going to be any kind of permissioning going on where you want different people to have access to different things? And then how will they make their purchases? Are they paying for these orders with a credit card, or is it being billed, or do they have an account? And so just kind of asking a little bit more about the how, the what, the why. Why is a great question. Why do you want the company store? What's the purpose of it? Really gives you guys an enormous amount of information about what it is they're trying to accomplish. And if they don't know, then you just help direct them down that path and start getting deeper into these questions to start to learn more about the purpose of the store. So yeah, get into those questions. It's gonna be a wealth of information. So once you know a little bit about it, you know a little bit more about what they need, and you want to get started on a store with them, then certainly talk to us. We're happy to help. So what's next? So if you are ready to get started, whether that's you need help presenting a store, maybe doing a demo for a client, maybe you need some demo store links that we could send you and some logins, because when you're showing off permissions, you definitely need logins so that you can show them just what I showed you. Look, I'm logging in as Megan, and now I see more categories of products. So asking for that information from us is a good idea, because then you can give your client a good demo showing off permissions. If you already know you want a store, let us know what you want. We'll help get you started. Or if you already have a store, but you need to build out permissions within a store, our support team is happy to help. So whether it's sales and marketing directed, getting you up to speed and trained and getting your store built, or whether you already have a store and you just need some support, we're really available and always happy to help in any of those ways. So with that, I'm going to hand this back over to Megan so that she can kind of talk a little bit about how to reach us, and we can dive into some questions. Megan?
All right, thanks so much, Tanya. Like Tanya just mentioned, if you want to chat more, you can find our contact information listed on this page. We have our main phone line. We also have our email, marketing@brightstores.com, and that inbox is monitored by several people, so we try to respond back pretty quickly, and we'll just help point you in the right direction. And then obviously also our website you can always go to. And then next month's webinar, we are still coming up with the topic, but it is going to be a fun one. So definitely stay tuned. We should be sending out those invites probably next week or so. So be on the lookout. It's going to be a really good one. And you can always find our webinars and register for them on our website as well if you just go to that URL listed below. All right, well, let's get to some questions. All right, so we've had a lot of great questions. We will try to get through as many as we can, but let's dive right into them. All right, is there a limit on how many users or groups we can create in one store?
That's a great question. No, there is not a hard, fast rule. If it's going to be a really high number, I had somebody call me yesterday and say, yes, they have 427,000 employees across the United States. It's a lot of employees. So definitely warrants a conversation on the best way to set up that program. But for all intents and purposes, no, there's not a limit. You can set up as many groups and users within your store as needed. But if the number is enormous, then let's talk about it, make a plan.
All right. What types of SSO do you support?
Oh gosh, good question. We support a variety of different types of single sign-on. The most common is called SAML or SAML. So SAML is, I would say 90% of our SSOs are via SAML. But we also have a token-based JSON single sign-on as well as OpenID single sign-on. So give me a call or I'll call you. We can talk through the details of these in offline.
All right. If you add an MOS trigger at the user level and at the group level, does a group MOAS settings replace the user?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. User is going to override group. So if you've got groups, but then you've got a group level limit, and then you have a user level limit for just one of those users in the group, that user's limit will override the group setting.
All right. Can you create a user not attached to a group?
No, but there is a default public group. So any user that's not created in a group is going to fall into that public default group. So you don't realize they're in a group. You don't have to put them in that group, but they're going to fall into that group.
All right. Oh, okay. Can you registration fields, for example, say want their employee ID when they self-register?
Yeah, it's very cool. We have what we call custom user fields. So you can create a custom user field for whatever data you need. So employee ID in this example. And then you can decide if you want that field to show up for self-registration or not, if you want it to be required or not. So you can absolutely turn those fields on for self-registration.
All right, perfect. And we are running low on time. And for some reason, it looks like our computer is having issues right now. So I'm actually going to wrap it up for the day. Don't worry, we will go ahead and follow up with you later this afternoon. That way, you know, you get your question answered and you have in reference for later on. And then, yeah, thank you guys so much for joining today. We really enjoyed having you guys here. We meet every Tuesday on Wednesday at 11 a.m. And then, like I said, we hold these monthly webinars once a month, usually the third week. So be on the lookout for that. And also be on the lookout for a afternoon, and then you should also receive an email probably sometime tomorrow just with a link to the webinar and the recording. All right, guys. Well, thank you very, very much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.